and plus size rather than just letting the internet do all the talking.
Yeah. But as a big fat slag, what are some of the struggles that you face?
Hi everyone, I'm Skylar, and this is the first episode of my new show called Rent Due. So my show is called Rent Due because the basic idea that we're going to be exploring is how everyone has to make money in our society, and celebrities, drag queens, pop culture people, they all can create stuff that we can consume, and all of that stuff is just like a product that's engineered for people to buy it. So when we kind of reverse engineer these things, we can get a better insight into how to create stuff for ourselves, and have a better understanding of sort of how the world and the culture machine around us produces stuff that we relate to and can connect with and ingest. So before we get into it, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, which is me. I'm currently selling these shirts that I make. They are all 100% handmade by me, and there is nothing else like this on the market right now. People sell bleach apparel, people sell stuff that kind of looks like this, but there is nothing exactly like this. These are all my own personal drawings that I turn into stencils and then I bleach over them, and they look really unique. And if you're into wearable art and stuff that's bold and is going to stand out, these are your best bet. So I have the link to my website in the description. You should definitely go check it out. I'm a design student, so if you want to check out my other projects, those are there also. And yeah, onto the video. I hope you enjoy my analysis of Maddy Morphosis. It's pretty wild. And if this is interesting to you, I have these videos coming up, which are going to be very juicy. So make sure you subscribe and you stay tuned for that. And thank you for all of the support on this new endeavor. So for our first show today, I want to talk about Maddy Morphosis, who was the straight drag queen that was cast on season 14 of RuPaul's Drag Race, and how she was able to reclaim her narrative from being the black sheep of season 14 that everyone was kind of dunking on, being like, why is there a straight drag queen on Drag Race, to now being really beloved by the fan base and really contributing a lot to the community and creating really meaningful content that has helped her find a lot of success and probably money, or at least I hope it's providing her money so she can buy better outfits. So we all know Maddy is really competent, smart. We all know that now. We're all familiar with her. But on Drag Race, when you're not in control of the editing and you're kind of just at the whim of the producers, they didn't see her as a major contender for the season, and she was sent home pretty early. But we all know that the time that she did have on the show was pretty iconic. I mean, that outfit that she went home on and that fight with Jasmine Kennedy, mama, that was some good TV. But not only was her actual run on the show pretty iconic in and of itself, but her being on the show in general as the first like straight man was already like way too big of a deal, and you could tell that was kind of part of what they wanted. Like, Drag Race is obviously all about getting the most attention that I can. I mean, it's a show of drag queens. Of course, they want the attention. So, season 14, how are we gonna, keep this hype going? Let's cast a straight guy. Straight man on Drag Race here. Can you believe that it got McWay's in on like all of this stuff? And it's like, it's interesting because straight guys have been doing drag in the mainstream media for quite some time. Like, we have Edna Turnblad, we have Miss Doubtfire. There was this trade in my hometown that would dress up like a cow and sensually do like a milking thing. So they've been doing it for a while. This is not new news. So obviously, everyone's putting pressure on Drag Race to like broaden their demographic horizons about who they have on the show. So when they cast this straight guy, it's kind of like a little cheeky move that is kind of like a win-win, in that it actually does show more people and more aspects of the community, and then it also is sort of a smart press move because they know it's gonna get people talking, which is obviously what they want. So let's talk about this YouTube show of hers. So this is a very common story that we've heard many times. Queen goes on Drag Race and then they have this new platform and it's like, well, what are you gonna do with it? Like, what comes next? And there's tons of different ways that this can pan out. For example, there's channels like Trixie's channel, which has helped her sort of catapult into new levels of fame and expand across multiple industries. And then there's something like Yuha's Bootleg Opinions, which is a lot more about more of a smaller community. They like to call themselves the House of Dry. Love that, love that. But hers is about more of a smaller community where they do their like bootleg reviews, and that's kind of the idea of it. So there's tons of different ways that these queens can sort of make their own content. And now, if you guys are seeing Mistress Isabel Brooks, the heavyweight champ, her new YouTube channel, that is some good stuff right there. There is room for innovation, and that is exactly what Maddy Morphosis was able to get the jackpot on. So Maddy finds herself in a really interesting spot here because coming off of Drag Race as like a straight non-queer man, depending on how you define that, what kind of content does she make? How does she work on social media? What's her platform? What's her spin? What's her narrative gonna be? How is she gonna sort of answer this design question of being a straight man on Drag Race? Like, what does that really look like in this era of content creation where everyone needs to make something? How does she build her brand around that? So I think Maddy did a really good job at answering this like design question of her platform as the straight Drag Race queen. In fact, I think she did such a good job of it that it's sort of what inspired me to start this series, particularly this first episode, where I look at her show, Give It To Me Straight, and we look at what helped her have such success with it, what she put into the DNA of the show that allows it to be so successful. And when we look at stuff like this and we kind of reverse engineer it, it helps us have a much better understanding of like the world and the culture machine around us and why we like certain things, why certain products find success when others don't. And as a product design student, that is what I'm particularly interested in, and I hope that sharing this knowledge with you guys will help you in your own creations and your own endeavors, because we all know it is not easy out here in the US of A or anywhere else on this planet. Hello. Also, I'm recording all of this like on my phone, and my lighting setup is all just like LED strips and like lamps and like stuff that I already had. So bear with me while we get this up and running. Over time, hopefully this will be upgraded and built out, but for now, baby, it's me, you, and the iPhones. So the basic like foundation of her show, and the first point I want to talk about what helps it be so successful, is her personality and her wit. So she has a really natural interviewing ability that allows her to form a really genuine connection with her guests and sort of lead you along the narrative that they want to tell, the story of kind of how they got to where they are. And then because she sets up this sort of heartfelt environment, it allows her to be way more sort of nasty and sick with her reads, and the way that she sort of makes the show entertaining by being like, oh, that like experience you had when you were a child, like, you know, kind of turning that into the read. Like with Lawrence Chaney, she was like, you know,
I am plus size rather than just letting the internet do all the talking.
Yeah. But as a big fat slag, what are some of the struggles that you face?
that is like such funny shade and such a good way to have it be like lighthearted and, you know, heartfelt, but still be really entertaining and sort of catch you off guard, and then give her everything that she needs for those viral moments where people just hear that and they're like, yo, what? And especially when they know it's Maddy coming from the straight drag queen, and it's kind of like, you just came so sideways. But that's what I'm saying. That's part of why it works. It's this juxtaposition of this heartfelt, warm environment with her taking those specific things, turning them around, and making those the razor sharp reads to make the show entertaining. So you see how when Maddy's in the control of her own narrative, she can use her strengths, her interviewing ability, her wit, all of this stuff, she can produce it her own way and tell her own story and portray herself how she knows she truly is as a human, as someone who really does care about all of these people's stories and wants to share them, and also wants to give everyone a really good laugh and be a great entertainer. So that's going to lead us into the next point, which is the insightful storytelling that kind of underlays each episode. So obviously each episode features a different guest, whether it's, you know, it's usually a Drag Race contestant, but there is some room to spice it up there. Like we had Slater kind of that adjacent gay celebrity world of people that we're all sort of interested in and contributes to the same kind of cultural paradigm. So each episode features an entity like that, an individual with a story to tell. So she uses each of these interviews, she chooses the questions very specifically to guide you along the narrative of their life that helps you not just hear basic interview questions like what's your favorite color, but it really helps you get to know them and connect with them and then understand their perspective and, you know, where their art comes from, how they work as a person. And then this kind of work that allows you to really connect with people and understand more perspectives and learn more about our own kind of culture and history. This is really meaningful stuff that a lot of people really like. And this particular flavor of content is very successful on YouTube. So, for example, there's another channel I watch called SBSK. The host of it is Chris, and he goes around to people with different diagnoses and their families, and he gives them a platform through this interview to tell their own stories, share who they are as a person, and this allows people to really form a genuine, you know, connection with them that helps them understand their perspective and what it's like to be in the world of these different people. And like I was saying, this kind of content that has that heart to it, but gives a lot of people stuff to sort of chew on and educate themselves on while sort of getting them, you know, more of an expansive worldview, is really powerful and does good on YouTube. And the reason that this stuff does good on YouTube and just works for content creation in general is because it's almost like an infinite content generator. Good content revolves around the idea of storytelling, and when you have a winning formula like SBSK or Give It To Me Straight, that can be sort of repurposed over and over again, and the DNA of it is meant to be reiterated across YouTube, that is sort of the blueprint for something successful. So because there's no shortage of stories to tell, there's no shortage of people with different diagnoses that Chris can interview and share the stories of, just like there's no shortage of girls from Drag Race or adjacent celebrities that want to further their connection with the fans and tell their stories and, you know, come on this platform and help people get to know them better. And us as the audience is gonna eat it up every time because we love hearing these new stories, these new perspectives that help us expand our own worldview. So this leads a little bit back into what I was talking about before about what qualifies as like a queer story. So a lot of the girls on Maddy's show are obviously girls from Drag Race, but someone like Maddy who's straight, or someone like who was on the show like Slater, for example, where these people are, you know, heterosexual, they're not technically queer, but they're major contributors to our culture and they have really heartfelt contributions that we all really value. I mean, every gay person in the world likes Slater, especially that new album, Hello. But someone like Slater or Maddy isn't technically queer, so their story of expressing themselves and coming into their own and creating their sort of persona, how is that different from someone who actually is queer, if there is a difference at all, you know? That's something interesting I kind of think in the terminology of it all about what makes a queer story. And I think that it does a really cool job sort of expanding our view of that. And it really shows that anyone, regardless of your sexuality, your gender, who you are, where you come from, you have the ability to express yourself and come into your own, even if it's not the typical like, oh, I'm queer and I'm coming into my sexuality or gender. Everyone can sort of express themselves and learn to share their own unique perspective. So the next thing I want to talk about is the name of the show itself, Give It To Me Straight. So obviously this has two really funny meanings. First one is give it to me straight, because he's a straight guy. Give it to me straight guy, tell me what's up. That's the first one. And then the second thing is like, you know, give it to me straight. Give me the full truth. That's what give it to me straight means. Give it to me how it really is. And that's awesome because that's the whole point of the show is like, give me your unbridled story here, your unfiltered story, and let us really be able to connect with you. Give it to me straight, you know, like let me hear it. And then even down to the logo of it, how it has the black and white impact font and then the pink cursive, that like the contrast about like give it to me straight, and then it's like a straight guy, but the straight guy does drag, you know, it has that juxtaposition to it that I think is really cool and allows you to sort of understand it easily, and it's catchy and you can remember it. Also, each one of her episodes is extremely well researched. There are several times throughout the show where people are like, how did you find that out? How did you know that about me? So she does a really good job sort of researching these people and being able to come up with information that is going to help us really understand their story. Also, she ends each episode with giving the guest a special gift that is going to have some kind of connection to them, which I think is another layer of her showing that she really does care about these people and she really is passionate about sharing these stories. And that's what makes it so intriguing. She's this straight man that's interviewing a lot of these queer people, and you know, that's really how she's able to sort of reclaim her story by helping other people tell their stories. And that's what makes it such a nice show and such great content that we're all loving so much, and why she's finding so much success with it. And this particular idea of interviews that are particularly about someone's story, obviously we've seen them before on YouTube. There's plenty of actual interviews out there from different people, but in terms of the actual sort of drag race content world that we all live in, a lot of it revolves around the recent episodes, the stuff that's kind of going on now, people giving their reactions, their reviews, that kind of thing. And a lot of that is really good. We can connect to these people that do reactions. We are excited to see what they think of the new episodes. I have tons of channels like that I watch. But it is sort of on one level, whereas Maddy's stuff, on the other hand, is sort of effervescent or timeless in a sense, because it's kind of disconnected from that live paradigm a bit, and it's more about sort of the characters that make up this world that we live in, this world of pop culture, and understanding them on a deeper level, which sort of opens up our hearts a little bit and allows us to know them better and feel more connected to them when we see them kind of doing stuff and interacting with them on social media and that kind of thing. So I hope you guys liked my sort of product design breakdown of her show, Give It To Me Straight. We looked at sort of the juxtaposition between her lethal reading skills and then the comforting environment that she creates, and then how she uses each episode to tell someone's story and provide really juicy stuff that helps us connect with them and understand their perspective and widen our own horizons and understanding. So if you like this kind of thing and you want to hear more, I have an episode coming up about Mama Ru. Don't mess with Mama, y'all. That compilation album that everyone was making fun of her for that picture, we're going to talk about that. And we're also going to be talking about the exterminations on Dragula. How does a show like Dragula, if they really want one contestant to win over the other one, how can they rig their exterminations? That's what we're going to look at, and it's actually really interesting, especially with this recent season. So if any of that stuff sounds interesting to you, make sure you stay tuned to my channel, subscribe, throw down a like, and I really appreciate any and all support on this new endeavor, and I'm excited to share all of these stories and learn more with everyone. So I'll see you guys out there. Don't do anything that I wouldn't do, and stay nice and wet. Sorry. I'm gonna have to think of something else to say at the end.